Happy Monday, everybody. I am the Prop Queen, Ariel Epstein. Thanks so much for coming on. It is a huge day for sports, especially college sports. One could say it's the biggest day of the year in college sports. Of course, we love football, but come on, it's the NCAA tournament. Houston, Florida tonight. I'm pumped. It's the first time that I have been in the final round of a Survivor. Like, Splash Sports, thank you so much. Having a blast. Me and Chris Thurston, CT Bets, we are, I'll get to it in a second, but we win tonight. It's great. Got great guests on the show. You guys know college hoops isn't really my thing. College sports isn't really my thing to handicap. I've got mid-major Matt, per usual. He's going to break down some props. He's got a side, and if you follow the newsletter at thepropqueen.com, you know which side mid-major Matt has been going against Houston with. All the props. He loves to bet this one prop against the Houston Cougars. I've also got VSiN's Greg Peterson coming on at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. He's always on social media. He's got a bunch of shows over at VSiN. He's a encyclopedia for college hoops. He's an encyclopedia for sports, especially college basketball. I listen to him talk about some teams sometimes. I don't really understand how he knows everything. But we're going to talk to Greg Peterson as well at 5:30 p.m. He's going to have some props. He's got some sides. We'll talk a little baseball too. Obviously, we're going to talk baseball. It's me. Duh. I've got the Yankees on right now, and they're getting smashed 5-1 to the Tigers, bottom of the seventh. Tigers have runners on first and second. Not great. And I know I usually do propaganda at the end of the show. I don't have that much to get to of a weekend recap because I was getting a lot of errands done. Oh, and I forgot. I always forget to go live on Instagram. So now I have to go live on Instagram. Okay. Hi, Instagram. Welcome to the show. So anyway, I'll go through propaganda first. Since actually, you know what? I'll wait a little bit because it's the seventh inning. So maybe I'll catch it after the Yankees game. There was a lot of propaganda today on the Yankees. I mean, no surprise. It's the Yankees. It's surprising because it was a 3:00 start. The public's all heavy on the Yankees. I guess that's also why BetMGM has the number so early. Whatever. The weather in Detroit was terrible today. It snowed on and off throughout the game. It's amazing in baseball. You could go from a sunny opening day like they had in Detroit to a snowy second week in Detroit. The fans who are out there are incredible. If you're there on a Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern time, and you're in Detroit, middle of the day, freezing out, snowing. There's no one really in the stands, but you're a dedicated fan. And also, like, do you not work? I just think it's funny. I did see that Comerica, or is that what they still call it? I know it's a new stadium, but Detroit has behind home plate, their home plate club. They have seat warmers, like heated seats, like your car behind home plate in their club. Genius. I don't know why the Yankees don't do that. It's the Yankees. How do you not have heated seats behind home plate? Anyway, this weekend didn't really focus too much on baseball and NBA. First off, I focus on the NBA for you guys. I would not bet the NBA again until the playoffs. Double-digit spreads all over the place. Players that don't care to play. There are some teams that are fighting for seeding, so you could look at those games. But overall, I hate this time of year because you just never know with the association. Baseball, you know I love. So let's get to an early stage of propaganda. I love that. Papa would love it too. Okay, propaganda time. Here are your most bet on props for today, according to BetMGM. Yankees over 4.5 runs. I mean, listen, there's still time left. Aaron Judge has another at bat in him. You get runners on. Yeah, this could hit. It's just 5-1 Detroit in the bottom of the seventh inning. Aaron Judge to hit a home run at plus 210. Nope, he just has a single. Jazz Chisholm to hit a home run at 6-1. No, I don't understand you people. Do you look at the weather? Do you look at the weather at all when looking at these games? It was windy in Detroit and the wind was blowing in. There wasn't much of a shot for anyone to put up runs like that. All the runs today were scored off of walks that led to like a single. There was, I think, like a couple extra base hits today. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. to hit a home run tonight, plus 425. Everyone's betting this because they're excited that Vladdy signed the extension. Signed a huge extension, by the way. And now I have to remember the exact numbers. But I know it was 14 years, I think like 500 mil or something. I tweeted it out earlier. I mentioned it because Cliff Floyd came on the show, former MLB star who is an all-star World Series champ. Cliff Floyd is good friends with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and his dad. He came on and said, it's getting close. He knew. Like, if you lose Vladdy in Toronto, you're done. Who else are you going to watch? Bo Bichette? Sure, he's great, but, like, not Vladdy. Everyone's going to watch Vladdy. Yankees are making a pitching change. I get sidetracked by live Yankees games. Okay, so Vladdy hit a home run tonight at plus 425. Let me see if MLB has anything on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. $500 million extension, the largest deal in MLB, third largest deal in MLB history, trailing Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. It's actually larger than Ohtani's based on present value due to the deferments of Ohtani's contract. So the present value of Ohtani's deal is $460 million, just so you know, according to MLB. So Vladdy will play his first game tonight under the new contract. He's up against Boston's Richard Fitz. He's a righty. The Blue Jays, let's see if there's anything on him. I mean, they're just giving us stats. Okay, he's off to a slow start, slashing .256 without a home run, but Vladdy rakes at Fenway Park. He's batting .356, 10 home runs, 44 ribbies in 46 career games in Boston. Okay, public, not hating it. I get it. Does Vladdy go yard tonight? It seems as if Vladdy's going yard at some point in Fenway. That I can tell you. There are a lot of Red Sox players that have really good numbers against Barrios, who's pitching for Toronto tonight. I'll see. Mid-Major Matt's probably going to hop on soon, so we could get to the offensive player props a little bit later. Then you've got Shohei Ohtani to hit a home run tonight. Oh, shocker. That's what the public's on today. So let's see. Shohei Ohtani looks to avoid going hitless in 3 straight games Monday for just the second time over the last 2 seasons. Ohtani's 1 for 11 with 5 strikeouts in his last 3 games, including 0 for 4 with 3 punch-outs in Sunday's game. He went 0 for 11 in a 3-game span last July. So they're up against Mackenzie Gore. He's a lefty. The line has been moving, of course, heavily in the Dodgers' favor today. I did see... I have the lines from last night into today. So against Washington, the line moved to, it was Dodgers last night minus 156. Then the line moved to minus 176 Dodgers. Washington plus 132 goes to plus 148. It's Dustin May pitching against Mackenzie Gore. I do have to get to mid-major Matt, but I have a funny story about Dustin May. My friends from North Carolina are going to love it. I have a doppelganger for him. It's one of my good friends. My friend Zach, he looks just like Dustin May. It's scary. So every time that Dustin May pitches, we text Zach good luck because it's literally his twin. Okay, joining the show now. Let me get this off the screen. Joining the show, per usual. And the funny part is I asked Mid-Major Matt, I said last week, so tell me this week, which shows you want to do this week. I always tell Matt, you get first priority on the shows. You tell me which ones you're available for. Matt says, well, obviously Monday. Okay, sorry. Obviously Monday. So here he is, Mid-Major Matt, joining the show. Matt, people are already knowing that you come on here all the time. I went on a radio show this morning in North Carolina. He said, you're very lucky to have your Mid-Major Matt guy who helps you out. He's great. So there you go. Matt, what's up?
Doing well. I wish, usually we would talk baseball as well, but with all the weather issues all over the place, I kind of sat today out. That today is certainly not a day for any sort of pitcher prop overs, because with all the outdoor games, there's rain issues. It feels like there's wind issues. And yeah, I saw what you were talking about, like taking a home run prop when the wind is blowing in and it's snowing very rarely seems to work out.
I guess Aaron Judge has so much power. He is one that might be able to do it. I just wouldn't bet it. And I don't like home run props to begin with. I think that they're just too fluky.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certain people who have great numbers. There was that long time when it was like G-Man Choi had great numbers against Garrett
Oh
Cole.
yeah.
And he used to hit homers against them all randomly and everything. But then like that kind of dried up because eventually Garrett Cole got the best of him. But like, unless you do the research in terms of who hits who really well, picking random superstars to get home runs just isn't going to work out.
No. So let's talk about what you do think is going to work out today. We've got March Madness, NCAA championship game, Florida, Houston. We saw a crazy finish to that game between Houston and Duke, where Houston's just so patient. They don't sweat. They're just waiting for you to get tired. Then they tire you out, and they're never down and out under Kelvin Sampson, their head coach. How would you approach this game prop-wise with the Cougars and the Gators?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that we've kind of tried to do pretty much all tournament. And we've had some success. And unfortunately, Con Knipple didn't go over his 2.5. Maluach dropped 2 alley-oops, and that would have gotten us over. So that was a little bit frustrating. But the thing we've talked about all along is assists against Houston. They are one of the worst teams in this category. And it's not really being worst. It's mostly that almost 58% of the baskets scored against Houston have been assisted. And so, I mean, it makes sense. Houston's got a really good defense, and it's not one of these defenses that if you have a really good player, he can't just go one-on-one. You have to manufacture passes and get people open. So Florida tonight is not, it's ironic because Florida is actually the second lowest assist to basket ratio of any of the
graphic for
teams.
you. Wait, hold on. Let me switch this though, because it's annoying and hold on. Oh, that's why. 1 second. Pause, because this is going to be good for social. There we go. Now I think I've figured this out, but I need to get the right graphic. Okay. Graphics up.
So the Gators are actually the second lowest in terms of assist percentage of any team during this tournament run. If you look, like Gonzaga and Purdue and Tennessee are really high in that category. SIUE and Florida are, still pretty good, over 50%. So I'm kind of leaving this open as a choose your own adventure sort of situation. If you look at the graphic though, I mean, there's some clear players that have some advantages on their number. If you look at Richard, 6 of his last 8, he's gone over. Elijah Martin, who's made some tremendous dunks so far in this tournament, 7 of his last 11, he's gone over 1.5. Thomas Houck, who's been tremendous for Florida off the bench, 10 of his last 18, he's gone over 2.5. And then Alex Condon, who basically seems like he just sets screens and gets people open, he's gone over 1.5 and 7 of his last 11. Clayton Jr., who is their best player, his number's 3.5 at the highest, but he's gone under that in 4 of his last 6 because he's been so good offensively. So, I know that we're here and we're supposed to be like, hey, you should take this. But for tonight, I'm saying look at the numbers and see who makes sense to you, especially if you're a Florida fan and you have a better sense for this team. But the numbers say almost any of these guys could go over their assist prop tonight. I just know that as many baskets as Florida's going to get, most of them are going to be assisted tonight.
Usually on a 1.5 assist, you'll get heavy juice. Are all these heavily juiced, or just are they mostly in that minus like 105 to minus 140 range that we like to target?
I mean, some of them are, they constantly are moving. Some of them are out of the unreasonable range, and that's unreasonable for you and me. For others, it may not be unreasonable depending upon how much you're sure of it. Assists are different than points and stuff like that. I feel like assists are harder to get, but like that's why you kind of target teams that you see a lot of passes against. And so Houston's going to be one of those teams. I feel like this is going to be like a 73-68 game tonight. I think Houston's going to win. So I have 73-68 as my score, which means in theory, Florida's going to get at least 20, 25 baskets potentially, which gives you an opportunity to get a lot of assists here. It's one of those things where foul trouble might hurt you a little bit in this situation, but I'm leaving it open to everybody. I'm giving the information out in terms of who's hitting their trend right now. It's no guarantee. We talked about Con Knipple had gone over in 9 of his last 10, and he went under in that game on Saturday. So things happen, but at least you can see the trends in which way leans the over.
This game tonight, is there any live betting opportunity you would think based on the way the game might flow?
I mean, foul trouble will certainly change. I think we could get a little bit of a slow start. And if we get a little bit of a slow start in this game, the over comes into play. I kind of like the over, almost like how the Duke-Houston game was a dead under for the most part. And then the end, there was the late fouling and all the three-pointers and stuff like that pushed the game over. I could see that. Tonight's obviously the last college basketball game of the season. There's going to be fouling to extend things, or it's going to be close enough that, there's not going to be fouling, but you might have overtime come into play tonight. Maybe a little sprinkle on overtime. Maybe I don't know. I think this is just going to be a really close game between these two teams. I don't think either of them are going to get more than a 6-point lead. So you're probably not going to have an opportunity to middle. If one of them does, I would certainly. Both teams have shown that deficits don't matter to them. Houston was down big to Duke. They came back. Florida was down big to Texas Tech, and they were down to UConn, and they were down against Auburn. So, if somebody does get an 8 to 10 point lead, take the underdog in that situation and maybe try and middle this thing, because I can't imagine that this thing's not going to be more than a 3 to 5 point game overall.
The Houston-Duke finish was insanity. I know that people were really disappointed about not getting Duke in there. How surprised were you?
I mean, I thought Duke was the best team in the country, but Duke hadn't been challenged. They just hadn't been challenged all season for the most part. There were games they were down, but they were better than the opponent, so it didn't really matter as much. Houston plays this style that it's they just wear on you all game long, and Duke didn't sub as much as they should have. They didn't rely on their bench as much, and Houston's one of those teams that every possession down the stretch, you have to be thinking properly. Where are you going? Plus, I don't understand why more teams don't do the 4 wide receiver look out of bounds when it comes down to the end of the game. And for those who are not familiar, and I'm sure there's some sort of proper name for this, but basically there's an inbounder, and then the other 4 guys line up out of bounds like wide receivers, and then they go and they, for lack of a better word, run their routes and just get open. Duke, when they were trying to inbound the ball towards the end of the game, had no idea what they were doing. Nobody was moving. They couldn't get it in, and that was part of the issue. And I think that's a John Shire thing. John Shire, to me, deserves the most blame. Tyrese Proctor a little bit for missing the free throw. Cooper Flagg for the bad foul and the bad shot at the end.
The turnovers at the end, too, were terrible.
Yeah, I just think John Shire didn't use his timeouts and didn't coach his team properly at the end, and Kelvin Sampson did, and that was kind of the difference.
We've got a couple of people in the chat. So Joel said, I'll definitely look to take the over, because Daniel also said, I look over for this game. You mentioned a live over. Would you only wait for a slow start and try to get a lower number, or would you bet the over before the game?
So, I mean, my score prediction is just 1 point over. I mean, I'd almost wait a little bit longer maybe and see if any more money comes in on the under. But, I mean, there's going to be a slow stretch in this game at some point. I mean, with the way these two defenses can lock in, I know Florida didn't exactly play great defense against Auburn, especially in the first half, but Houston can lock in defensively. As I said, that was a dead under in the first half of that Houston-Duke game. If we get something along the same lines for this one, maybe you have to wait 2 TV timeouts, maybe the under 8 timeout, whatever it is. But at some point, there's going to be a stretch with 5 or 6 points, and then maybe you get a better number on the over there.
Anything else you want to discuss about this game before we move into baseball trends?
I mean, I think that it's just, fouling and the officiating is going to be huge tonight. Of course, that's the case in every game. As we've talked about, Houston doesn't get to the free throw line a ton. The way they play their offense, they're towards the bottom in free throws attempted per field goals attempted. So, they kind of need this game to go a little bit freer flowing, because they're just not going to be able to rely on the free throws that much, which is pretty funny, because if you're an offensive rebounding team, chances are you're going to get fouled on these offensive rebounds. But the numbers say, they don't go to the free throw line enough. So they need a more free-flowing game. I think Florida benefits from a tighter game because they have a little bit more depth than Houston does.
This game's going to be crazy tonight, 8:50 p.m. Eastern time. I'm super pumped. Matt likes all of these assists, so make sure to just take one more look at the assists there. We've got Major League Baseball on, and I was explaining this earlier in the propaganda segment, how the New York Yankees were the #1 bet on prop today for over 4.5 runs in Detroit. Things are getting a little interesting on that prop. It's 6-2, top of the 8th. Yankees have 2 outs, but runners on the corners. Matt, all it takes is a home run from the Yankees, and the public could cash right here.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where they always just take the Yankees over. I mean, Mize was okay in his first start. He wasn't great, but like they purposely moved this game up from its later start time because of the cold weather. Like to me, and I know you had the weatherman on last week. Weather is so important when it comes to these handicaps. I mean, look at today. Today, more than anything, St. Louis and Pittsburgh's going to have some wind and rain. Washington could have some rain tonight. Boston, it's supposed to be 30s and gross and ugly and all this stuff. Like, you have to take this into account. And, that means, you can't take overs on certain pitchers' outs because he could get taken out by a rain delay or something like that. So it is so important to look at the weather when it comes to these baseball games outdoors, because it's going to affect how you handicap things.
I had a troll on social media after I had the weatherman on. He was trolling and tried to tag SB Influencer, who loves to cancel me, tried to tag him by saying, "Oh, now we're talking weather." What do you mean? Of course we're talking weather. It's an outdoor sport. You have to talk about weather in baseball. Like, do you not know the sport of baseball? Football, I understand. Fine, weather. But even in football, it matters because you're going to run the football probably more in a snow game. Like, it matters.
And that's why the totals don't come out for Chicago Cubs games until that day, because they have to wait for the wind and for the forecast. Which, by the way, the forecast for Wrigley today looks like 20-mile-per-hour winds blowing in.
I thought the total was 6. There was a point the total was 6.
It's because the winds are blowing in tremendously, and that kind of changes things a little bit.
Yeah, Rangers, Cubs, that game 7:40 p.m. Eastern time. Cubbies minus 130 with Steele up against Eovaldi. Total of 6. I mean, it's a good pitching matchup. The Rangers strike out a lot more against lefties.
Yeah, exactly. And these guys might stay in a little bit longer. Now, there might not be as much, but I don't know the physics of this stuff, but like there might not be as much bite in certain off-speed pitches and stuff like that. But like, I mean, both of these guys in theory should be able to stay in. I think they'll be less miserable than the hitters will be, who have to try and hit these pitches. But like, yes, weather is 100%. Like, if we had a bunch of sunny games, I probably would have had a play or two today. What's one of our?
I have a couple unders I like today.
All right, so let's run them by.
I'm not going to do the Royal Lock because that's at the end of the show. My best bet. I'll tell you, Luis Severino under 4.5 Ks, though, was one that I was looking at. Last year, Sevy against teams with low K rates. They're up against the Padres, low K rate. Sevy averaged just over 4 strikeouts a game in those spots. However, this is the Padres. And looking at the Padres this year, there's one player out of 6 starters that faced the Padres this season who's a righty. One righty starter went over 4.5 Ks, and that was the last outing that they just had. Severino can get rocked in Sacramento tonight again.
He could. I agree. I mean, that makes sense, and, the juice is to the under, which means the public agrees with you. And yeah, it's weird that Brown was the only one and he had 5. Now I'm still bitter about Lively's 4 because I had the under 3.5, and Lively's not a very good pitcher.
3.5 scare me.
Exactly. The 3.5, you get 1 or 2 freak strikeouts or 1 or 2 Martin Maldonado at bats, and then you're going to lose potentially. So,
or you get the ump in this Yankees-Tigers game where it's sunny, by the way. It was just snowing. So
now I'll tell you this. One of the things I was really close to playing today was the Carmen Mlodzinski over 1.5 runs, earned runs allowed. But one of the things that Ariel and I always talk about in our little text chats is the game after Sunday Night Baseball, and Cardinals coming off of a doubleheader, flying into Pittsburgh, off a doubleheader, off Sunday Night Baseball. The weather is miserable. So, like, in theory, yes, Mlodzinski is a terrible pitcher, and they should be able to score over 1.5 runs. But, like, a lot of things are going against it. Plus, there could be rain, which will cut his start short. So, like, it's always important to pay attention to all the factors, and it's okay. And I know Ariel disagrees because she was mad at me this morning. Like, it's okay to sit out and then just, like, get ready for tomorrow when you've got a full
sit out. They'll be so mad.
Well, you don't have to sit out, or you say, this is something I like, but I didn't necessarily fire away on, like, using some different terminology.
Right, I get it. Here's one. This one I liked, but didn't fire away on. Red Sox righty Richard Fitz under 3.5 Ks. You told me to stay away for the same reason that you just said. Doubleheader yesterday. Red Sox had to use the bullpen. Fitz is going to have to eat innings in this spot.
Right, which I thought Michaelis would have had to eat in some innings yesterday, and he sort of did. But, like, plus the only problem with Toronto is they're starting to strike out a little bit more. Canning had 6, McGill had 4, Dean Kremer had 6 way back in that first series. Fitz is going to have to go more innings than you would think. So that's the thing that kind of scares me a little bit, because if we knew that this was a normal game coming off of a normal game yesterday, then Fitz might only go 4 or 5 innings, but like they may push him a little bit more. Plus the weather's really bad. So who knows how miserable the batters are going to be. So like, it's just,
what's the weather in Fenway, meteorologist Matt?
Well, I'm looking at our guy Kevin Roth's page, because that's where I go for all this stuff. He said he quote said, "This is gross stuff. Temps in the 30s, rain basically all day. It could be on and off drizzle. We'll need to wait and see."
Maybe it gets taken out early because of a rain delay, and we hit under 3.5.
But if the game doesn't start, and then he comes in late and they wait the rain out. Like, this is all things that I just don't feel like guessing. And usually Mondays are weird days anyway, because some of the teams are playing, some of the teams are not playing. Like, I like the full cards, because the full cards, there's usually 1 or 2 opportunities, considering I look at all the markets where you can find some advantages. Today, less games, bad weather. Like, to me, I'm just going to kick my feet up tonight, watch the basketball game, and then just, like, I would have had the under on Rodon's K's against the Tigers, and thankfully it went over. So I sat out of a game that I was going to lose.
Like, no. The Tigers, we don't know yet. Like the Twins too. We don't know how these teams are going to do yet, because Matt, when I see that there is a team that was a high K rate team last year and a low K rate team this year, vice versa, I'm just going to wait for the numbers to like populate again until we know for sure if these teams are high or low K rates like they were last year. I mean, a team like the Twins, a team like Detroit, it's a huge difference.
Yeah. And I guess, you kind of got thrown off a little bit. Snell only had 2 in that first game against the Tigers. And Rodon had been traditionally not bad, but lower strikeouts on the road. He had 5 last year in Detroit, and so that would have gone under. But yeah, we're still trying to figure out. That's another reason why it's okay to not play a ton of things, because we only have 10, 11 data points for a lot of these teams, and you're not really formulating anything. I mean, how crazy is this? Last year, you and I would look first to the Nationals for unders, because they were an under team. And this year, in 3 games against lefties, they have 26 strikeouts in those games. So, like, we have to change. And Rodriguez had 12 of them, and he's not a guy who's a strikeout pitcher traditionally. So last year, the Nats were an under. Am I ready to accept them as an automatic over yet? No. So I need more data points.
It makes a little sense because they're young. So I could see how a lot of the younger players that have just come up and are going to continue to come up in Washington are going to probably end up striking out a bit more. But again, that's just to start the season, and then things will probably normalize. The Marlins are a weird one too, right? The Marlins have had a decent amount of unders or overs this year, excuse me. Like, I was looking at Kodai Senga tonight. Kodai Senga's prop is 6.5, which is way too high. Yet Miami, any righty to start against the Marlins, 5-1 over under their K prop, averaging just under 7 strikeouts a game. It's crazy.
And once again, more potential rain for some sprinkles in this game, which could stop things. And why I don't play this game is because he just faced the Marlins. He faced them in Miami.
Yeah. No. So, I wrote that in the newsletter. Stay away.
Right.
Get 8.
For those who are not familiar, like, we do not, me more than Ariel, because she will pick certain situations, but like, I'll never play somebody off a back-to-back. Like, if they see a team a second time, unless it's Coors Field, right, in a row, unless it's Coors Field, or unless there's some sort of weird situation, a rain out cuts out the first start, we don't get to see as much. Like, I have no interest in that second start because the team just saw them. Like, this is one of those things.
Most likely Senga goes under tonight. Let's be real. He's probably going under 6.5.
Yeah. The problem is this Marlins lineup is just, it's so
I know.
young.
You can't bet it. You can't bet the under. Okay, we've got to get Greg Peterson in here. Mid-major Matt, what is your best bet for tonight?
I mean, it's taking some sort of assists over for some sort of
Who do you like the best?
I'll go with Alex Condon. I think Alex Condon over his assists. I mean, he sets a lot of screens and he's really good at it, and that opens up some guys. It's not my favorite necessarily, but like, I think any of those almost, you could find probably 2 or 3 overs in that group.
Mid-major Matt, as always, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you again probably sometime this week.
Sounds good.
Coming up now, We've got Greg Peterson joining the show. What's up, Greg?
Ariel, great to be aboard with you. We're going to have a great night of college basketball, and you, much like myself, jazzed up for baseball. So great to be on. Thank you.
Greg, roles are reversed. I always go on his shows on VSiN. Usually it's at like 11 p.m. Eastern time, and I'm getting into bed. But for Greg, I'll do it. We always talk some basketball. We definitely love talking baseball. Of course, tonight, the big story is the big tournament. It's the big game. We've got Houston and Florida. Matt just came on, talked his assist props against Houston. How are you playing the game tonight?
Absolutely. With me, I'm a little bit more of a sides and totals guy, but I love the fact that he was talking up Alex Condon because I feel like he could be able to have a big game in this one because he's coming off of scoring just 1 point in that Final Four matchup against Auburn. He overall for the season has been averaging about 10.5 points, a little bit over 7 rebounds per game. He was looking at the assists. I could easily see him getting multiple assists in this game. I personally am seeing him right around about a player prop of 8.5, 9.5 points. I think that he goes off for double figures in this game. I think that he's a big reason why Florida gets the job done. My personal bets are going to be Florida laying the 1 and on the over. This is something I picked on my bracket going into it. I actually had a Florida versus Houston bracket with a total of 142 for the title game. So everything is materialized at this point. I just feel like Florida, with them having pretty much 2 of everything, 2 really good guards, 2 really good big men, having a bunch of depth, that's going to take it out of a Houston team that they have to have the ultimate bounce back spot here. Because to knock off Duke the way that they did, to have that comeback, to try to come back 48 hours later from that, that's going to be one of the most difficult things I could think of for a basketball team because you feel like you won the title after you came back the way that you did against Duke. Now you have to face off against a Florida team that's just so deep, that has been so relentless all season long. So we're looking at Florida, looking at the over of 141 with those late game fouls. And as I was talking about, do you think that Alex Condon, much like mid-major man, gonna have a big game in this one?
Greg, since you like the over, and I know you don't really have any player props, people here love props. And a lot of people in the chat were saying that they like the over. Who are some players that you would key in on tonight?
Well, without question, you'll want to look at Walter Clayton because he is the first man since Larry Bird to have multiple 30-point games in the NCAA tournament in the Elite Eight or later. Like, it's absolutely insane what we're seeing out of him. Now, that player prop is 21, and I do think that Houston is going to be able to key in. I don't think that he goes for 3 straight 30-point games. If he does, we should be putting him right in the top 5 of the NBA draft because he is worthy of that. That said, I take a look at a guy in Elijah Martin, who's been just a steady force for this team. His player prop is more around about 16. I think that you can get a little bit of value there. And what I think is interesting to look at in this game is the unstoppable force versus the immovable object. The unstoppable force is Houston. Number 1 3-point shooting team in all of college basketball. They shoot 39.9% from 3-point range. It's a big reason why they knocked off Duke. They went 10 of 22 from 3. Now they go up against a better 3-point shooting defense, though. Florida is allowing opponents to shoot 29.5% from 3-point range. And keep in mind, out there in the SEC, you've got some pretty good 3-point shooting teams. So if you're looking at a few unders for this game, you want to be taking a look at some of these guys for Houston that were so good in that game against Duke, like an LJ Cryer, perhaps under their made 3-pointers in this game. I think that that's going to be a big key because if these Houston guys like LJ Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, and company, they're able to bury their threes, Houston most likely wins this game. If Florida's defense stays true to what they are, and I think that Florida's defense will be, I think that taking the unders is going to be a good look.
I always play that way in the NBA too. If I see that the night before or 2 nights before a player had a great game, same thing goes for a rematch of any kind of matchup in the NBA, I say, it's probably not going to happen again. Like usually if a guy has a good night shooting threes against a good defense, then he's probably not going to do it again a second night in a row against another great defense. So I agree with you on taking certain unders in those kinds of spots. A lot of people, I feel like, Greg, are on Houston. What are the vibes out in Vegas?
I feel like it's been relatively 50-50. You've got some very smart people that are in on Florida. there are some very smart people that are in on Houston. This is much like what you find with the Super Bowl, because no matter how you want to slice it, if you very much like Houston, you'll find a lot of people that agree with you. If you like Florida, you'll find a lot of people that agree with you. And it's a big reason why a lot of places open this line at Florida being a 1-point favorite, and it's held relatively stagnant. Some places you might find a -1.5, but you're going to be finding that at more around like -102, -104 juice. I've seen 1 or 2 places move this to a pick'em and then immediately gets back to Florida -1. So the vibes I'm getting right now are the fact that this is going to be a whale of a game. There are a lot of people that are very intelligent on both sides of this game, and this is truly the toss-up of all toss-ups, in my opinion.
I was going to show this in a little bit, but I'll show it right now. I thought that, oh, hold on. I'm still getting used to this thing. I thought this was really interesting. So I'm in the Splash Survivor pool, and I'm in the finals. I thought for sure going into this Survivor contest that it would have been I needed Houston to win to make more money. Instead, I need Florida to win to make more money. That shocks me that in the final round of a Survivor in the championship, we had this many people still left on Houston.
And I think that part of it is with Houston, the biggest test was getting past Duke, because I think that a lot of people view that Houston versus Duke game as almost a pseudo national championship. Now with Florida, I thought that it was really interesting, their game against Auburn, the fact that you had 2 SEC schools matching up, what have you. But I do think that the fact that this is being played in the state of Texas is playing a little bit of a role in this as well. And that is the biggest trepidation that I do have with this Florida team as well. The fact that you've got a team that is playing in their home state, playing in the Alamo Dome, that is something that always needs to be factored in, because in college basketball, the most difficult thing to do is to be able to win on the road. And let's call it what it is. The Florida folks, they've traveled relatively well. There's going to be a lot of Florida representation there, but you know that when this title game was set, you know that there was a lot of Houston fans that they were buying up their tickets. First time since Phi Slamma Jamma that Houston was able to make the title game. Everyone that's been dying.
Nance is crying.
Oh, man. I mean, it's just absolutely insane what we saw a few nights ago with that. So, yeah, absolutely. You know that there were a lot of people out there in the state of Texas that were buying up tickets for this, but I still do think that Florida just is able to find a way with so much depth, and that's the big thing. When you do get past the starting fives, I do think that Florida, with having Micah Hanlogden burn his red shirt, with having some of these guys having to mix and match due to the fact that they had injuries throughout the season, I think that that's a big reason why Florida just finds a way to pull off this game.
So you just kind of like the over, you were saying. Mid-Major Matt came on before, made a good point. Things eventually, like at some point in the game, it's going to slow down, especially with these defenses. How much would you like a live betting opportunity on the total?
Oh, absolutely would love it. As a matter of fact, when I was doing that Final Four game, I was on live on VSiN for Houston versus Duke. I was seeing when that game was 67-61 with a little bit over 90 seconds remaining. That live total was 133.5. The immediate thing that I came on, and I bet this myself, as I said, take the over. Because you know that you're either A, going to get late game fouling, or B, you're going to get a bonsai charge from Houston. Either way, you're going to be able to find points in those final 90 seconds. So you might see a little bit of slowdown. Heck, it's exactly what we saw in that Houston versus Duke game, where Houston, they could not bury a shot to save their lives first 15 or so minutes of the game. And then I would say midway through the second half, the over was looking good. You had a little bit of a slowdown, and then you get those late points. And that's what I'm banking on for the over. I am banking on those late points, and I think that that's a big thing that you want to take a look at as well in terms of player props as well. Who do you think is going to be going to the free throw line late? If you think that Houston is going to win, you probably want to be taking overs on LJ Cryer and Emmanuel Sharp, because they both shoot north of 86% at the free throw line. If Houston is up 5 points with a minute remaining, those two guys, they are going to be funneling the ball to them. If you think that Florida is going to have a late lead, perhaps you look at Elijah Martin, perhaps you look at Walter Clayton to be able to bury those free throws late as well. So I think that that's a big way to be able to play it with regards to player props.
Hakeem Prophet, good friend of mine. I know you probably know Ski too.
Good guy.
Great guy. Says hashtag do the right thing. And just from knowing Ski, I know people like you and Ski and Mid-Major Matt very well. I've known you guys for years. When he says hashtag do the right thing, he probably means take Houston first half. Greg, that trend has been awesome. Houston first half for the last couple of years. I know you like Florida full game. How much do you lean towards Houston maybe in the first half?
I think that actually would be a relatively solid look because Florida's been the second half kids all season long. Like, you take a look at that game against Texas Tech. They were down double figures in the second half, had to pull off the comeback. They were down in that first half against Auburn. Second half, they were able to take hold. And it's part of the reason why I am in on Florida is that they have a little bit more depth. You could see Houston have that rush of adrenaline after what we saw against Duke. You've got all those guys that are riding high, and then perhaps reality sets in a little bit more in the second half as well. So I could very easily see a scenario where Houston wins the first half by a few points, and then in the second half, Florida's able to take hold a little bit more because they have a little bit more depth in their bench. They've got a little bit more in the chamber. I do think that that could be a good way of playing it. Look at Houston in the first half. Look at the full game for Florida.
Hey, I do better in the splash contest if Florida wins. So, Greg, I'm on your side today, even though I've been a huge Kelvin Sampson fan. I really love this Cougars.
The man is a college basketball sage. Like, I mean, let's call it what it is. He drew up the absolute perfect play for this team to be able to come back down 14.
I thought it was dead. I thought the Cougs were dead against Duke.
Oh, they were dead rights. They had absolutely no reason why. And to utilize the Geno Smith phrase, everyone wrote them off and they just so happened to write back. And you just take a look at the sequence that happened. There was one liability out there on the floor for Duke at the free throw line because they were a team that overall for the season shot 78.5% of the free throw line. One guy on the floor shoots below 70%. Tyrese Proctor. Guess who gets fouled and bricks the front end of a 1-and-1? Tyrese Proctor. Guess what Duke can't do in the final 90 seconds of the game? Inbound the ball. That's all coaching right there. So, I mean, even though I do think that Florida wins this game, if you're looking at a coaching advantage, it certainly does go to Kelvin Sampson.
Absolutely. I actually, my friend Chris Thurston sent me an email of like his breakdown of the game today. I can't read the email. It had a lot of bad language in it. It basically was all Kelvin Sampson is the better coach by far. Ski says experience. They've been there before. Similar end to the game versus Kansas. Thoughts?
I think that it's really interesting to look at the experience standpoint with regards to these two teams as well, because with Florida, they've been in a lot of nip and tuck spots. The way that they were able to pull it off against Texas Tech, and what I look to for Florida as well, they brought in a lot of mid-major guys that are going to relish the opportunity. Like Walter Clayton was not some sort of a 5-star recruit or anything like that. As a matter of fact, if you looked on 247,
he came from Iona, right?
Yeah, he came from Iona. He played under Slick Rick Pitino, so you know that he's very well schooled. He was the number 69 transfer in, I believe, the class of 2024, if I'm not mistaken. Micah Hanlogden, who burned his red shirt to be able to play in this game. He's a guy that came over from Marshall. And you do have a lot of that with Houston as well. Like, LJ Cryer was a part of that Baylor team that won the title, but he wasn't like the guy that was going out there scoring 15-plus points per game or anything like that. So I do think that in this day and age, looking at these guys that they've sort of been through it. Ruben Chinyelu, another guy for Florida. He was over at Washington State, and heck, he wasn't even putting up mammoth numbers when he was over at Washington State. I think that the experience factor, you probably give a little bit of an edge to Kelvin Sampson, but I still look at Todd Golden and the way that he's been able to utilize analytics. I know that there was a great article in 2020, just before COVID really struck that season short, where they were talking about Todd Golden when he was over at San Francisco. Rob Dowser of NBC Sports wrote this up. His team was up 11 points going into the half. They intentionally fouled to be able to get the ball back, expand that 11-point lead by another bucket. He's taking that much further ahead than some of these other coaches. So many of these coaches are looking at that final possession of the first half as a little bit of a throwaway. Just make sure that you don't turn the ball over, things like that. While these other coaches are playing checkers, he's indeed playing chess with regards to his analytics.
Ski also wrote, and you could rebuttal because I don't know. I'm not good at capping college hoops. Ski likes Walter Clayton over 2.5 threes, maybe points as well. Thoughts?
I would absolutely love it. Like I was pointing this out a little bit before with Walter Clayton. First man since Larry Bird to drop 30-plus points in back-to-back games in the Elite Eight or later. Like, the guy is absolutely amazing. There's a reason why he's an All-American. There's a reason why some people are making comparisons to Steph Curry, which obviously I think that that's going a little bit far. I'm not going to go out here and call him Steph Curry or anything like that, but the man can score from anywhere out there on the floor. And just in looking at the Alamo Dome as well. I follow the three-man weave. They do some tremendous work when it comes to college basketball. They were noticing this. The rims are very soft out there at the Alamo Dome, and that makes me feel a little bit better about the over. And that's something that's always very hard to gauge when it comes to college basketball and just basketball in general, because you always have some venues where it feels like absolutely nothing is going to go down if it's not a swish. There are other places where you get those friendly bounces, like in the Maui Invitational every single year. The friendly bounces have been there at the Alamo Dome. So if you're looking at a few overs in terms of over for like Walter Clayton, insert your favorite player here in terms of three-pointers, we have seen these rims play very friendly, and we've seen the three-point shooting thus far in the Final Four be very good on really both of these games.
Hey, listen, if Ski is giving out some props, I'm listening.
Yes.
It's hitting 8 of the last 9 for Walter Clayton Jr. to have over his threes. So if Hakeem's saying it, you definitely got to do it. Let's switch over to baseball real quick, Greg. I know you love baseball as much as I do. What are your thoughts on Sacramento, where the Athletics are playing in the minor league park?
We have gotten some very nice totals thus far. If you're looking at yes, no for a player to hit a home run and everything like that, you might want to take a little bit of a gamble here on Sacramento, because we have seen all 3 games thus far go over the total. Personally, I've been playing a lot of overs in Sacramento, and what I think a lot of people forget is that Sacramento is a part of the PCL. That would be the Pacific Coast League. The Pacific Coast League in the AAA, it is notorious for run scoring. Like, you just see explosions of offense. I know that I've got a guy that joins my podcast pretty much every week, Curtis Rogers. He does the pre and post game work for the Seattle Mariners. He was talking to a lot of the Mariners players coming into the season. Oh, what are your thoughts on playing on Sacramento this year? Like, every one of the pitchers was like, well, we're going to have to go through it. We just hope that we get out with a respectable ERA and we move on to the next venue.
It's still only an 8.5 total tonight with Severino pitching.
Oh, yeah. And I think that part of that is the respect for Michael King, who, I mean, the guy has been absolutely dominant in terms of his strikeouts as well. Like, I'm not too much of a K-prop guy personally, but Michael King has served you very well over the last year. That said, I do take a look at this spot, and man, you should be able to get into that San Diego Padres bullpen a little bit, which was very taxed on Sunday out there in Wrigley. And that's another game where I'm in on the over on. Heck, if that total would have ticked up to 9, I still would like the over.
It's crazy they haven't adjusted yet. Last week, we were talking about the games in Sacramento and how the Athletics games are going over. I'm waiting for this to start hitting Rockies numbers at some point when they're at Coors, because maybe it won't get to 12. Maybe it gets to 10s that we start seeing, but 8.5 still relatively normal.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, if we get to 12, then it's went a little bit too far. Then you find that buyback point on the under, but I'm right there with you. This should be probably playing like, I mean, sometimes you find some 10s at Fenway. Sometimes you play 10s at Great American Ballpark, things like that. I would put it probably comparable to more like a Great American Ballpark.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. We've got some really crazy totals today, because especially that flat 6 at Wrigley with the horrible weather and so much bad weather today that it's definitely an unders day in baseball. Greg, anything that stands out to you so far this baseball season trend-wise?
What stands out to me is that favorites have been absolutely cleaning up thus far. North of 63% of games going the way of favorites. I think that means that we're going to find a little bit of value here on the underdogs. I know that you were talking about this a little bit before with Matt, the fact that you guys are liking under in terms of Kodai Senga strikeouts, perhaps taking a shot on the Miami Marlins at like a plus 220, plus 225. I think that more of that is going to be coming through. Heck, we saw that a little bit earlier today. The Detroit Tigers on plus money, they were able to hit as well. I think that as you get into more of these travel spots, as you get into more of these inbounds off days, that's going to bode itself very well for some of these underdogs. And I do think that more of those plus money dogs that have not been hitting thus far this season, I think that they're going to start to in the next few weeks.
Since you like to do a little bit of everything, or a lot of bit of everything, you're basically a walking encyclopedia for betting, especially basketball. NBA playoffs are coming up. How does your approach change to betting the NBA when we get to the playoffs?
I am very much a live game bettor. I know that Doug Kazarian, who used to be over at ESPN, was a stand for this as well. Just playing the runs in the NBA, I think, is very much your best friend. Like, we were just talking about it in terms of looking at the national title game, perhaps being able to try to get in on a live number. That's exactly what I look to do in the NBA playoffs. There will be a lot of times where a team is down like 14, 16 points in the fourth quarter and just dumpster diving, being able to take the points, banking on that team that is down to be able to make a run has served me very well over the last few years. I don't do as much pregame in terms of the NBA because it just feels like all those games end up being sweats. Like when you get into the NBA, if you take like a -3, a -4, that team that you bet upon, they're probably going to be up and down 15 points, both in the same half. Like it's absolutely crazy with the runs, and it makes it so maddening to be able to bet it. So instead of just going through the torture of being on like a +3, a -3, something like that, being able to get a better number in game is the way that I do like to play the NBA playoffs.
NBA playoffs, they kill me. I'm sweating out props all game long. I very rarely hit a prop as early as I can in the regular season. We've got a little bit of time, though, until then. Greg Peterson, let the people know where they can find you.
Absolutely. Twitter/X at @GUnit_81. And then 2 daily podcasts, Coast to Coast Hoops, which that continues into the offseason. We've got 1,900 players right now in the transfer portal already. Nets have not been cut down yet out there at the Alamo Dome. So it's going to be a wild college basketball season. And then for all the baseball work, break down every game, every day on the Baseball Betting Show with Greg Peterson. So very nice to the point name there.
Greg Peterson, thanks for enlightening us with your encyclopedia brain in sports betting. Good luck tonight. Go Gators, go over, and we'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Great to be on with you, Ariel. Thank you.
All right, Greg Peterson, he is so awesome. I don't know how his brain fits it all. We've got about 9 minutes left in show. I'll get to NBA first. So the NBA tonight, there were only 2 games, and there's a back-to-back for the Sacramento Kings. So this is what I love to do in the newsletter, talk about how players do on the second leg of a back-to-back. The Kings, so you've got Sabonis, and I had the props. Oh, it didn't fit in the graphic, so let me just tell you what the props are. I have them right here. So the edges for the Kings tonight, the ones I found best, Sabonis and Murray over rebounds. They're props. So Sabonis prop is 12.5. It's kind of hard to see, but he averages 16 rebounds a game on the second leg of a back-to-back. Keegan Murray, too. His prop's 5.5, and he averages just over 7 rebounds a game. I looked back the last 5 against the Pistons, and first off, their center, Jalen Duren, is questionable for this game. The last 5 games, I mean, you're seeing Edey had 21 boards against the Pistons. Jakob Poeltl had 11. We've seen a lot of 11s, but like Edey, Gobert, they had over 20 rebounds. So there's that chance for Sabonis to go off on boards tonight, especially second leg of a back-to-back, missed shots, more rebounds. What stood out, though, was really how the Pistons have allowed for a lot of rebounds to a lot of players. So just going through the last 5 games, at least, let's just say the last 4 games, because it's happened in every one of the last 4 games. We have seen 3 to 4 players get 6 or more rebounds against the Pistons, which means if Murray is your second leading rebounder on the second leg of a back-to-back, Murray should have rebounds tonight. Over 5.5 rebounds for Murray is my favorite play in this game. Sabonis, maybe. That'd be the way I'd play him, not points, because his points prop was 18.5, which is pretty spot on. DeRozan's points prop is 22.5, so it's right about there. Zach LaVine, his points prop 20.5, so he's averaging 23.5 on his second leg. Maybe you could look a little bit to the over. I thought the assist stood out there too for LaVine. His prop's 3.5. He's averaging 5 on the second leg. Malik Monk is the one I'd look at for points. He's averaging just under 20 points a game on a second leg and didn't play yesterday. And his points prop's 14.5, which is really low. So if Monk didn't play yesterday and he's rested on a team that played yesterday against the Cavs, nonetheless, tough defense, Monk should be the one to go over his points. So that's the way I'm looking at that game. I have absolutely 0 interest in the later game between the Sixers and the Heat. First off, Bam Adebayo, the Heat center, was questionable. Second of all, who's even playing in Philly anymore? Do we even know? So again, a double-digit spread against the Sixers team that's mailing it in. Don't care. Kings, Pistons tonight. I care a bit. So those second leg numbers are pretty good. Got some offensive player props to look at. You guys know I don't really bet these. I'm going to tell you, though, who has the best matchups of the day. Starting with Jaren Duran, 467 batting average with 3 homers against Barrios, and they're in Fenway tonight. Jose Altuve hitting 333, 5 doubles, 1 homer against Logan Gilbert. That game is in Seattle tonight. Another one. Ellie De La Cruz for the Reds up against Logan Webb. That game is in San Francisco. He's hitting .333. No extra base hits, though. Brian Reynolds hitting .444 with a double, a home run. And that game is in Pittsburgh. So Reynolds, look at his numbers at home. Home runs. Again, this isn't weather. I didn't include weather in this. So just take weather into consideration. Like I said about propaganda, where people were betting the Yankees overs and Judge to homer and Chisholm to homer, and the wind was blowing in Detroit. So look at that. However, these are the 5 players tonight that have hit the most home runs in their matchups. Duran had 3 home runs against Barrios. Devers 2 homers against Barrios. Bregman 2 homers against Barrios. Willie Adames 2 home runs against Hunter Green. And Manny Machado 3 home runs in 19 at-bats against Luis Severino, which is also interesting. Sure, there was some Yankees-Orioles matchups in there as well, but these are the players that have history, top 5 in home runs against their starting pitcher tonight in Major League Baseball. We've got about 5 minutes left. I only really have one best bet today, so I'm going to show you one more thing. In case you missed it, this was what I did this weekend. This is like, I told you, I'm in the splash contest. It's the first time that I've ever made it to the finals of a Survivor contest. Not only did I make it to the finals, my friend CT Betts and I, we figured out a way. Well, he figured out a way. I'm giving him the credit. I did put my $100 into the Survivor contest. However, CT is the one that's helped me get through this since he's the big basketball savant. By the time we hit the Elite 8, CT said, Queen. That's what he calls me. He calls me Queen. Queen. Okay. We just need to do it this way. And there's a way that we could both just get into the championship and win and both, like, I have no problems. That's what we did. CT and I picked the Final Four where I had Florida and he had Houston to go, like, to move on. So essentially, if it was a Florida-Houston final and we just swap who bet the other, you know what I'm saying? Like, Final Four, he had Houston. Yeah, he had Houston, I had Florida in the Final Four. They both ended up winning. Now they're in the championship. So now I'm going to pick Houston and he's going to pick Florida. So we win. And when we knew that after the Final Four, here's what happened. Let's go! It was so fun. It was like 1 a.m. His poor baby is 1 month old, and I'm screaming on the phone that we're in. This is what the splash contest looks like right now. This is what's left, which is crazy because when you look at the overall of what's left, there's like 800 people left. Only this many people could still choose. So it says out of 871, 75 people could choose Florida, and 125 could choose Houston. So in the Survivor pool on Splash for the millions, this is what's left. So again, it's better for CT and I if we have Florida win tonight. However, for CT himself, he really needs Houston. He has a 12-1 ticket on them. He's insane. But Florida for me, that's what I'm looking for tonight. Florida Gators, baby. Now, it's time for Royal Locks. Best bet. This is my best bet of the night. Zach Eflin going under 4.5 strikeouts. I love this play because he's the Orioles starter up against the D-backs. Eflin's only averaging just over 3 strikeouts a game against low K rate teams dating back to last year on the road. He's on the road against Arizona, who has one of the lowest strikeout rates in baseball. In fact, this year, 2 pitchers out of the 5 that they have faced, the D-backs have gone over, just 2, over 4.5. I just don't see it being Eflin on the road. This year, he had 2 against Toronto, 5 against Boston. Toronto has a low K rate, just like the D-backs. They're about the same, so we only had 2. That was on the road. Then at home, Eflin had 5 against Boston. That's Boston. They strike out a ton. So to just go over this number in 6 innings with 5 Ks against Boston, he ain't going over this. Under 4.5 Ks for Zach Eflin tonight. Book it. That is my Royal Lock of the day. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining here on the Prop Queen Pod. Good luck to whatever you are on tonight in the big game. Florida, Houston, the over. Mid-major Matt gave out those assists on Condon. Florida -1 is what Greg Peterson gave out. He likes the over as well. Both mid-major Matt and Greg liked a live over as well. If there was a point in time in the game where things slowed down with these two great defenses, they say, go bet a live over. Ski, he gave out. He didn't even come on the show today. Walter Clayton, over 2.5 threes. It hit in last 8 of 9 games. So another thing to look at from a sharp guy I love. Thank you guys, and good luck with your bets. We will be back tomorrow, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time, right here on all Prop Queen Sports platforms. Enjoy the games.